Welcome to the Strength for Life podcast, where smart strength training meets real life. We're Dr. Matt and Nicole Klingberg, founders of Village Fitness and Physical Therapy. Here, you'll learn what really works in the gym, at home, and for life. Can you stand up from a chair without using your hands?
I sure can.
Proud of you. Not rock forward, not, use the side armrest to get up. Can you just stand up and sit down? There was this massive study that looked at 28 different countries, people from 28 different countries, something like 18,000 older adults over the age of 50. All of them had high blood pressure. And they had researchers across these 28 countries assess how long it took them to stand up and sit down from a chair 5 times. And what they found was this had a really tight correlation to their longevity. They followed up with them 3.5 years after the study. They found that a significant percentage of them had died, and the ones that took the longest to do the 5 times sit to stand died something like 28% more often. They were 28% more likely to die than those that were average, and those that did it the quickest were 29% less likely to die. So let me give you guys some numbers here. So if you can stand up and sit down 5 times in 7 seconds or less, you are considered excellent after the age of 50. You have a 29% lower likelihood of dying from all causes compared to people that take an average of 11 seconds to stand up. And then those that take 19 seconds to do their sit to stand, those people have a 20% higher risk compared to the 11-second group. So I would encourage you to assess yourself on this. Can you stand up and sit down quickly 5 times? Time yourself. Can you do it less than 7 seconds? I hope so. That's going to be a really good. It's going to give you a really good idea of how does your leg strength correlate to potential for longevity. Keep in mind, these people did have high blood pressure. So this isn't like a one-to-one apples-to-apples comparison you can make with yourself. But I do think that humans are humans, high blood pressure or not. This is a great predictive test.
And I think the research also shows that people over 50 tend to have some type of medical condition.
Yeah.
And so if it's not high blood pressure, it might be something else. And so, the reality is that most people do have some, comorbidity. And so I think it's like you could replace that with something else and probably have similar results. But again, correlation does not always mean causation. But I do think that there is a strong indicator of how much leg strength plays into our longevity. Now, even more challenging would be, can you sit down on the floor and stand back up without using any limbs, hands, knees, anything, and then get back up doing the same thing? Should we try it?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
And I'll talk through it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So researchers call this the sit to rise mortality study. Originally, this was like a thing that came out from Brazil, I think in the 90s. And then in 2014, they did this wide scale study with 2,000 adults ages 51 to 80. And they had them do this test, and they scored them on a scale of 0 to 10. They're like, can you get down onto the ground without using your hands or your knees? Nice. So that would be a perfect 5. And then to get the other 5 points, can you stand back up? Wow, you are good at that. Good job.
Thank you.
And that would be a perfect 10, which Nicole is in more ways than one. Perfect 10. Now, Nicole, show them how to subtract points. So if she was going down and she needed to put down a hand, that would be -1. And that would be a 4 out of 5 possible. If on the way back up, she also needed to use a hand and a knee, that would be -2 additional points. So she would get a 7 on that. That would be -1, -2, -3, because she used 2 hands and her left knee there. For those of you that are watching this, if you're listening, I'm sure this is kind of tough to imagine. I would encourage you to give it a watch. What researchers found was really interesting. They found that people that scored the lowest had obviously a higher likelihood of dying in the 6.5 years or so that they did that between the start and the follow-up. They found that those who scored 6 to a 7.5 had a 1.8 higher risk of death compared to those who scored between an 8 and a 10. Those scoring between a 3.5 and 5.5 had a 3.4 higher risk of death, and those scoring 3 or less had a 5.4x increased risk of death, which is nuts. Can I try?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's do it.
Okay.
So a couple of things to note when you're doing this, especially if you're not watching this, you should do this on something soft. Like if you're on, a hard floor, then it's going to be a lot more challenging, or it might hurt your ankles or like your sit bone when you sit down. So, I would say that was a 9.
Warmed up.
Okay. That was a lot of rocking. Okay, that was a 10. It was a 10. Well done. What do they do in the Olympics? Yeah.
One of those types of things.
Okay. I guess that was your second try. Most of the time in the Olympics, they get 3 tries, so, or 3 runs.
3 runs.
So you made it on your second, but it is an average of the 3. So I'm going to need you to perform
that's not true. You're making stuff up.
of the 3. So that was a 10 on your second try. And again, I think that, this is something like I would do it. And then if you're not a 10, or you're, you had to use a hand, that's okay. I think though it does give you something to work on. And so we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But let's talk about how people can increase their longevity. And why is this test even an important indicator of longevity?
Well, now we're getting into speculation.
Yeah.
So I think it has carryover to longevity because it shows a lot of things. It shows how strong your legs are. It shows your mobility. It shows your balance. And really, if you can get up without using your hands or just one hand, so you're really unlikely to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And falls are the leading cause of accidental death amongst Americans over the age of 65 today.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even take into account the people that die in the, months or years following the fall due to complications. Totally. You had some crazy statistic that you told me earlier today.
Yeah, it's like after the age of 65, I think it's like if you fall and you break your hip, there's up to a 50% chance that you'll die within 1 year of breaking your hip. And so,
That's crazy.
And the reality is, unfortunately, I have heard of multiple people that this has happened to. I know at least 3 to 4 clients who personally have had parents who have literally fallen,
Mm-hmm.
they've broken their hip,
Mm-hmm.
and they never came home.
I heard about the story of this guy who retired.
Mm-hmm.
Is a friend of a client. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, but they retired and they were like, I got to get healthy. And they were just about to start taking back their health, taking charge of their health at 65. And a week after they retired, they tripped going up the stairs, fell down a bunch of stairs, and they died from brain related bleeding.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So not to scare you, but I do think that this is a matter of life and death,
Mm-hmm.
that you have the leg strength. So that's one, is the leg strength and the balance piece. And then there's also do you have the cardiovascular endurance to be healthy? And I think that there is a correlation between how strong your legs are and are you cardiovascularly fit? Because what they found was there was a pretty tight correlation. The sit to stand test that we did at the very start, or talked about at the very start, there was a correlation between that and cardiovascular disease. People's ability to stand up and sit down 5 times quickly, that was correlated with how likely are you to develop heart disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then if we bring barbells into the equation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bring them in.
Can you squat your body weight with a bar on your back?
Sure can.
You can. So can I.
So when it comes to lower body strength, there's tons of research showing that how much muscle we have is correlated with longevity. But specifically, I think leg strength, because that's where we have the bulk of our muscle, is arguably more important. And it's usually when people's leg strength goes, they stop walking. They stop going out on trips with their family. They stop going out to dinner. They stop doing stuff, and it really halts their life.
Yeah.
I think somebody can function with an arm that doesn't reach overhead or shoulders that are really weak. They can get through life. It's like, yeah, maybe you can't lift the suitcase into the overhead bin, or you can't put the cup up into the cupboard, but you'll be okay. You can
but
still go and do stuff.
Once you start not being able to like move around and walk, and like that is a really big limiting factor, and like you need a walker, or you start to shuffle and you're more likely to fall because you don't have the leg strength to take bigger, longer strides. So I think that is going to be the thing that, really, I think longevity isn't just, how long you live, but like the quality of life. And I think most people, if they don't have enough leg strength as they age, their quality of life is going to drastically decrease in their ability to do the things that they want to do. And so I think that's why it is so important for people to prioritize that. And so these tests that we give you, the sit to stand and the sitting to rising test, it's like those, they're maybe not the most foolproof thing, and they won't give you all the data you need. Obviously, there's lots of other markers that can help predict your longevity. But I think that they're just a quick, simple tool that you can do and self-assess and just kind of give you a reality check of like, are my legs strong enough to see me into, older age, and so that I can do the things that I want to do and not have to fear as much of the, like, I've heard a lot more recently, which is interesting because, we're not, I wouldn't say in elderly range yet, but we are getting into an age where I'm hearing more of I'm afraid to do things. Like I've heard from people our age, like they're starting to get into their like late 30s, early 40s, specifically around things that have to do with any type of like faster movement or things like skiing. Like there was a couple of women that I was talking to recently, and they said that I'm afraid to do that. And I think a lot of it comes from probably lack of strength and just like pushing your body, in skiing, it's like you're going fast. You're probably using more fast twitch muscles. And so I think it's like, if you haven't been doing that, you start to get more afraid of taking risks. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I think naturally it's like, you get more risk adverse as you get older. But I think there also comes a point when it's like, it really limits people's ability to do things in life. Like maybe you don't have to ski, but like if you're afraid of, going to the store and stepping up on a curb, or you can't do that, like that's a problem. Like you're going to be really limited in what you can do in life. And I think you're going to miss out on a lot of the joys and experiences that most people want to do as they get into like that age of retirement.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's say this. So most of our clients who do this test, even the people that we work with, have worked with for a long time, I doubt they're going to get a 10 on this test, whether it's mobility restriction, maybe they have a knee replacement, or maybe they just haven't built enough strength relative to their body weight to do it. They may not get a 10. So I would say the single most important exercise that they should focus on to improve this and to optimize their longevity is the squat.
I would agree.
Yeah. Specifically the barbell back squat. That is the squat that allows you to go through the fullest range of motion. It allows you to stress your body with the greatest amount of weight because the bar's on your back. And it also, because the bar's on your back, especially if you do a low bar back squat, you're moving the bar down and back a little bit more, you're going to get into what's called your posterior chain, which are your big muscles on your backside, your glutes, your hamstrings, even your adductors, your back extensors, all these really big, powerful muscles that aren't quite stimulated with a lot of other exercises. The squat is uniquely equipped to do that. And that's why it's one of the big three in our program that we focus on, meaning the squat, the deadlift, and the press. It's that important. It's probably the most important of the three, if I had to pick one.
Me too. I would agree.
Yeah. And so you might be thinking, well, do I really need to do a barbell back squat in order to be able to stand up from the ground? And it's like, well, maybe not. Maybe not right now. But what you need to think through is like, you got to build up a big reserve because you're going to need to draw on it later in life. It's never going to be easier to build muscle than it is today for you. Like it will only get harder. And every day that goes by, it gets a little bit tougher for you to build muscle. It's not impossible. I mean, there's studies showing that people in their 90s are able to build strength and muscle. But I guarantee you it would have been easier in their 80s or their 70s or their 60s or their 50s, their 40s or their 30s or whatever. So you want to build up a big reserve of muscle today because that'll carry with you. Kind of like a physiological 401k account. You build it up while you're young. It pays dividends in retirement when you go to draw on it.
And it has a compounding effect. Like I think it's
Yeah.
like the more muscle mass that you put on and the more you build your bone density when you're younger and you have the hormones and it's easier for your body to do those things, like the easier it is going to be to maintain that as you age, because you're also going to just start at a higher baseline of muscle mass and bone. So even if you do start to lose a little bit of muscle mass or bone density, like it's just going to be, you'll already have more to go off of versus someone that, waits until they're 65. Again, that's not too late, but they wait, say, until they retire. It's just going to be harder because they won't have that same baseline. And you're also more likely to probably get injured, and like your body just hasn't experienced the same stresses and adaptations over the years. And so it's just going to be a little bit more difficult. The good news is, and the hopeful thing is that it's not too late.
Nope.
You can still build muscle. And there's people that have, it was interesting. I saw this lady recently who like didn't start doing any type of strength training. And now she's doing like powerlifting competitions in her like late 70s. And she's like, I feel better than I did in my 40s. So I think it's like, there is hope. But I think it's like, it's harder. And it takes a lot more dedication and time and intensity to get to that point when you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s versus when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s.
Yep. All right. So other than the squat, there's 3 other movements that I think could be really helpful for improving one's ability to get up and down off the ground. The second one is the village lunge. So we do this full range of motion lunge where typically your foot starts elevated on some sort of surface, like a box, could be a chair,
a bench,
and you go forward all the way until your hamstring hits your calf. Full range of motion, keep your chest up, and then you push yourself back up. We start people elevated, and then we slowly and steadily work them lower and lower towards the ground. And then once you can do it on the ground, we add some weight. We don't usually add weight until they're on the ground, right?
Correct. Yeah. And it's so interesting because we've had people that have come in like with knee replacements, and they've said like, I didn't think I would ever get this much range of motion, but they just like slowly built it back up. And maybe it's not completely to where it was. We've also had a lot of people that have come in with knee pain. And that's usually one of the limiting factors with lower body strength is someone's like, oh, my knees hurt. And so they stop walking and they stop moving and doing the things that they want to do. And this movement really, I think, helps solve that as long as you slowly progress it and, you don't do too much too soon. I do think this has also been one of the things that's been most helpful for me with knee pain is like consistently doing village lunges. I just found that even if I was just doing it in an 18 or 12 inch box, every single week, I think that that's been a really big, it's helped me to overcome the chronic knee pain I was experiencing.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Next up, we have the split squat.
So this is a new one that we're starting to incorporate at Village. It's kind of like a reverse lunge, but you keep your foot back the whole time. Drop your back knee down to the ground, come back up.
And explain why a unilateral, so like having your legs split, apart and focusing more on one leg versus both legs at the same time. Like, why would that be beneficial for someone?
Yeah, I think that it provides the squat is still better. It's more load. It loads bigger muscles. So I want that to be super clear. Like the squat is a superior exercise to a lunge, which is why we focus on it in our program. We've added in the split squat as an auxiliary exercise because I think it provides a different stress to the body. It's unilateral, so there is a balance component. It's going to challenge you in a different way than a squat would because you have one foot forward, one foot back. It's definitely going to work more of the quads than I wouldn't say more of the quads than a squat because the squat is a great quadricep exercise.
I also think it's just like lowering your body to the ground. Like one knee is, touching the ground each time you go do a split squat. And so that's part of the reason why we picked that for increasing your leg strength, because it has a lot of practical carryover to everyday life. Like there's a lot of times when you need to lower with control your knee to the ground. And that just like, will help you get up and down off the ground more easily. It'll help you when you're doing something on one side and maybe not, you can't always pick something up with perfect squat form. And so I think you need to be able to have leg strength in multiple planes and be able to do it on just one side. when, you're doing things like picking something up out of a car, you might need to have one leg forward, one leg back, things
Totally.
like that. So I think that it gives you a more well-rounded way to build leg strength versus only doing the barbell back squat. But I would 100% agree.
Yeah.
I think squats if I had to pick one and it was like, this is the only thing I'm going to do to build leg strength, 100% would be barbell back squat.
I also think like when I am on the ground reading, or playing with my kids, and I go to stand up, I do a lunge to get up. Like I put 1 foot forward and I stand up like I'm coming out of the bottom of a split squat, really, or a lunge, whatever you want to call it. So it is probably more similar to how people would get up and down from the ground. And I think the specificity of training is quite important. The more specific your training is to the thing you want to be able to do, the more carryover it's going to have. And so I think that there is some element that it's like, oh, this could actually be really helpful for people that want to not look like they're older than they are when they get up from the ground. Because that's one of those times where you feel old. I hear that from people often. They're like, man, when I get up from the ground, I just feel old.
Yeah.
It just makes me feel like I'm older than I am.
Yeah. Or there's people that legitimately can't get up and down off the ground. And that's not a good thing either. No. Last exercise that is one of my absolute favorites because it is very challenging is the Turkish get up. And I think, a lot of people will see this and be like, I can never do that. But again, this is just like anything else, like slowly progressing and getting into it. And so, there's multiple steps to it. And just even practicing like coming up onto your elbow and then your hand with, that control, like that's also an excellent core exercise. But just the more that you practice doing the thing that's uncomfortable that you want to be able to do as you age and is a really big predictor of longevity is getting up and down off the ground. And so I think if you practice that in a very controlled manner with the Turkish get up, obviously there's a lot of other exercises you can do, but I think that this one really gives you a lot of bang for your buck and is a great exercise to incorporate. So if you haven't seen what it looks like, strongly encourage you to look it up on YouTube and find a video on it. But I think that'd be another great one to incorporate into weekly training.
Yeah. And so I just want to encourage people that this ability to get up and down from the ground is very trainable, but it may take a while depending on where you're starting from.
Yeah.
Could take somebody that's already got quite a bit of strength. You might already be able to do this just fine. And your goal should be, okay, how do I maintain this?
Yeah.
And build up a nice reserve so I can do this for a long time. Somebody that can't quite do it yet, it's okay, we may need to work through some things and actually help you build up the strength and the mobility to do this. So these 4 exercises we laid out, I would encourage you, if you're lost and don't know where to start, get a coach, hire a trainer that does barbell-based training, at least does functional movements, like actual movements where you're holding weights, moving your body in the way that it's made to move, and have them progress you through this because it's really important. And that's what we wanted to do this podcast on, was like, how do we convey to people the importance of lower body strength
in regards to their longevity.
Yeah.
Because like that's, I think at the end of the day, it's like that's why people want to be strong. Like I don't think most people want to be strong to just be strong, or they, to do this test, it's like this could be kind of arbitrary. It's like, okay, great, I can do this. But really what it signals and tells me is that, okay, I am going to be either I have, room to improve my leg strength, and that's really going to help me in my, in my life. And I need to do these things on a more consistent basis. Or like Matt said, I'm where I need to be. And, that's great. I need to keep doing more of the same. And you're probably already strength training if you can do this with a 10 out of 10. And if you're not, and you're on the younger end, then I would say start strength training, because it is going to be one of those things where it's easier now than when you're older.
Yeah. Or
maybe this is a wake up call, and this is something where it's like, I scored a 3 and I really need to work on this. Like this should be the thing that is like, this is a problem and it's only going to get worse, and it's going to rapidly increase, with each decade. It's like you'll continue to lose more muscle, you'll continue to lose your mobility and your independence. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I think most people would say they don't want to go that direction. So
cool.
Yeah.
So we'll link into the show notes. We've got a really cool video on squats we put together, which is like how to get started with a squat. Some of the common squat myths. We'll have Jamila put both of those in the show notes for people to watch. I think that'd be a great starting point for folks. And then start with body weight training, progressively add weight over time, progress to barbell back squats. That's going to be the most important. And then just stick with it. Work through the challenges and difficulties of it. Don't stop. Do it for as long as you can. Your body will thank you.
Yeah, I would say strength training and building strength should be a lifestyle habit, not something that you do in the short term. So find a way to make this a part of your life. And, even if that means like you get up and down off the ground and you do lunges while you're like with your kids, or you're doing other things, or you incorporate these movements into your life more, just like be really intentional about moving more and finding ways to build strength. And it doesn't always have to be in the gym, even though that is, I think, the most effective way. But there's a lot of other ways you can do this while you're out and about. I always am amazed by it's when we like go to sporting events and, either whether it's practices or different things. And it's like people just find, I think, ways to sit all the time. And it could be as simple as, standing and doing body weight squats while you're watching your kids or your grandkids on the field. It could be doing some walking lunges. It could be doing laps around the field instead of, sitting the whole time. And I think the more ways that you can find, to incorporate strength and to keep yourself moving and being uncomfortable, like the more comfortable you'll be in the long term.
For sure.
So
that's a great place to end.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.